All right, let's talk about this AB who just finished I think cool, nice interview with one of our favorite podcasts out there, The Pivot. Um, I actually ended up watching it twice. I was actually working, watching it again for the second time, and I got a couple of things from it, which was pretty good, man. And you guys, if you guys watch us, you know that we kind of watch both and we like both, but I think Pivot is a little bit more of my favorite than I Am Athlete right now. But I'm not saying they're bad right now. And both of these guys, I Am Athlete and Pivot, they both had a chance to sit down with Antonio Brown, football player, um, and they both did an interview with him. And we had a lot of criticism, kind of, on I Am Athlete when they interviewed Antonio Brown. Things like not letting him speak. There was no kind of connection there. It just felt,
There was no resolution to like the
yeah,
questions that we had, like to really answer it. And
it was
looking
all
back
over
on
the
it,
place.
yeah, looking back on it, they did, but they didn't deep dive. We didn't,
Right.
it didn't leave the audience, at least in my opinion, the audience um, with a resolved answer to the question, like what happened. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And why,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Because I don't know what it is. I don't know if he was comfortable more with the pivot, which I think he was. And I think one of the biggest question would have been the Bruce Arians situation. And I feel like he answered it on the Pivot podcast, but not I Am Athlete.
Yeah, they didn't even get to
Um,
it because that's what I'm saying. When
so
you don't get to the bottom layers
yeah.
of stuff, because that's real important, and that's some of the points that the notes that I took that I want to talk about as well, because um, it's important. But like because he went on both of those shows, and he went on other places too, like
Yeah.
Full Send and all that other stuff.
Hmm.
But since we talked about these two podcasts, I'm Athlete and Pivot, and him and Antonio Brown being on both podcasts, you're able to see the comparisons, and there's nothing wrong with being different, but it's just
Yeah.
the environment in Pivot was way better. Like the chemistry, this is a safe space and you're allowed to be you and explain how without being attacked and without being judged. That was the environment that the guys in Pivot did that I noticed was lacking on I Am Athlete. I Am Athlete, there was one question that Antonio Brown was asked on the I Am Athlete, and he could have answered it. But as Antonio Brown started answering it, Brandon came in and just was asking another question on top of it. And I was like, bro, you just cut him off. Just let him talk.
Right.
Right. And that's what the Pivot folks did. They let him talk. And when he got it all out, they asked another very important question. And it was nice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think you might hear me saying kind of, I think we might both share the same um, outcome of this interview because I felt the same way. Like they actually just let him talk. Like sometimes the more you let him go, you might get a little bit more. And in his in AB's mind, he's gonna keep adding to it, add to it, and add to it. And that's the stuff that you get that sometimes you ask a question, but you get an answer that you didn't expect,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And they did let him talk, and I think that was great. One of the biggest points, I mean, do you want to bring up a point? Because the first one that I have is that the coach Bruce Arians stuff that he said, how he explained it, and and he also asked Ryan Clark, who he played with uh, when he first came in the league with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it's almost like he looked at Ryan and he was saying all these things about the coach, like. If I say it, you probably won't believe me. But the fact that he looked at Ryan, he was saying, "Hey, you were there when these things happened. This
Yeah.
happened," and Ryan just like, and to me, that sort of makes sense. Um, because I don't think AB would just lash out on one little thing like this. And he even asked Ryan, "How would you react?" Especially you knowing this guy, and he's
Yeah.
just like, "I wouldn't
Yeah,
know
it's
how to
it's when
react."
it was very good. I mean, how he
So
how he said it. It was in the moment. It was very vulnerable, and it was very to the point when he was talking about the history with the Steelers. And he says, "You and I know,
hmm
right? My work ethic. and my skill set in playing football. You and I know how Bruce Arians treated me, right? When we
You
were
and
out there
I
in the field.
know.
You and I know how Bruce Arians was saying that AB doesn't know all the route running, doesn't know he doesn't have the intelligence to be the X, right? He's like, you
Yep.
and I know. And as he's going through these you and I know stuff, he's opening up. And I think that was the question, not the sidetrack, but that was one of the questions that he was starting to answer, but in a different way on the I Am Athlete. But then he got sideswiped with another question that had nothing to do with what he was just asked before that, right? So them allowing him to do that, and Ryan just we're looking for Ryan to see if he's agreeing, and he's like, yep, and he
Yeah.
confirmed it. And there was a lot of that going on, right? So not to hijack it, but this conversation had me pretty excited because the first 10 minutes is, if you're paying attention, is great,
Hmm.
right? They all come together, they hug it out, and everyone's talking. And the first thing I'm looking at is AB and RC. Like, how's that going to go down? Because we've been hearing how like it's would be. It was. They were like, yo, we're. It was back then. It was a falling out. We didn't come in and reach out to each other. And Ryan said it right. He said I should have reached out to you and talked to you offline, and he didn't, right? But so that was one piece. The other piece was the Bruce Arians stuff, right? And then the history and what happened with the Bucks and why he walked off. He talked about that very well, right? And they let him explain all that stuff. But
But
there were
can you
more things.
see though? But can you
But
see how he would kind of? I'm not saying what the way he reacted was okay, but he there's a history there. So
absolutely,
and if he feels like he's not, because what he said was he said I stand for respect and boundaries.
yep. I
So
think I got that written down. Yeah, absolutely,
right, so if that's how he feels and you don't respect that and you don't respect his boundaries, you cross that line, especially if he's probably said it to you before and you're still doing it and you probably still see him as this person, like you said, not smart enough to play this position
right,
or whatever. And this is still after the fact that he's he's proved himself in the NFL because
right,
Bruce Arians moved on. This is what 7 years later, right?
yep,
In his career, and yes, and who knows? He's probably still not showing him love and respect. He's
right.
probably still not respecting him. But
Yeah,
those
and
are
and
things that we don't know,
and that's probably a
right?
two-way street. So, like, of course, the way that it blew up,
Yeah,
and he even mentioned, he goes, it's like stuff on top of stuff just keeps piling on and piling on, and eventually is
yeah,
going to react. And he goes, that's what that was. So, and it wasn't just when AB joined the Bucks. It goes way back into the Steelers when the team was
right,
disorganized, right? Bruce
true.
Arians was the offensive coordinator, and I didn't know that, right?
I
So I
didn't
didn't know
either.
they had history when Tom Brady, which AB called the GOAT, called me to move the mountain. You know what I'm saying? So he's like, I went because my boy, the GOAT, said, hey, come out and help us out. And then I'm pretty sure, if the GOAT or Tom Brady went to Bruce Arians and said, hey, I want, AB to come out here, Bruce Arians probably already had a history with him and already
Yeah,
knew. He already had this. He's like, nah, he's a troublemaker. He's a diva and he's all this other stuff. But he was like, all right, because the GOAT wanted him,
right,
right? So he tolerated AB, and then while they were there, he probably didn't treat him as nicely as he was probably treating some of the people that he probably liked. So that stuff
right.
starts to add up. And then what you were talking about, AB, talking about the respect. The thing he said he's about respect and he stands on his principles, right?
Hmm.
He goes, it's not about the money. Everybody's like, you just gave up $30 million. He goes, I'm already rich.
Right.
It's not about the money. When you get to that point where it's not about the money and you feel like someone's disrespecting you or treating you unfairly, then you just don't mess with them. You move
Right.
on, whether it's in the middle of a game or not, right? He doesn't
Yeah.
need that.
But it's true though. I mean, we're just looking at like you said, we're looking at headlines. We're looking at people on TV just, we think they do their research and they know what they're talking about, like ESPN when they report something, right? But these guys don't know too much really either. Because if these reporters know the past history, then you can go, I get it. I can see why that would happen. I didn't hear any ex players saying that when they talked about AB. They just the one thing that they go after AB is the mental stuff. And one thing he said was, my name is sexy. My name on the front
Yeah,
page is sexy.
right. It
And that is
sells. Yeah,
so true, bro. Because soon as every time I turn on ESPN and they're talking about AB, it's the same thing. They're not talking about the money that or the stuff that he's doing for other people, or him setting up his life besides football, like on and off the field. These are things that you're not gonna hear. You're gonna hear how he's an ass. He did this, he did that. But I think that's what this, or just having a podcast, have a conversation with someone, is you get those things. And this is one of those things with I Am Athlete. I was just like, why wouldn't you ask direct question? He's there. Ask him. On top of that, you edit your show. So if things go left, edit that out.
Hmm.
Get him back on. Hey, let's restart. Let me ask you a question. Maybe I'll ask it a different way. Let's
Hmm.
restart. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? But these are questions. These are stuff that I really enjoyed, that we got from the Pivot in AB's interview. And it's true. You put AB's name on it, it looks amazing. It's sexy. It sells, and people want to click on it. It's clickbait.
Yeah.
And like he said, I'm working to make money, not just on the field but off the field.
Right.
And some people will say, "Well, you're not focused on football. You probably don't love it." I don't know. All I hear about AB is he's a hard worker, so I can't take that away from him. But like
Right.
he said, where's all the OGs that retired, was a good boy, didn't do all that stuff? A lot of them are broke, right?
Right.
So I thought that was something profound that he said, is like, where's the OGs at? Where
Yeah,
are
they,
they?
they played the
Where's
game,
the
they
money?
followed the rules, they got kind
Yeah,
of like sent away, and you don't hear what happens to them and their successes after that, because a lot of them aren't. A lot of them are back to being broke, right? And
yeah,
he says, I'm one of those that I'm not going to do that. And they talked about how he has his relationship with Floyd Mayweather, he has his relationship with
right.
Kanye, and he's the president of the sports section, sports marketing on for Donda. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So he's doing big things, because damn well those two names together are going to bring all kinds of prospects to want to have an agent, under that umbrella. Like, that's going to be
Yeah.
big, right? So that means good on AB, right? And this leads me to the point where people are like, he's just wild and crazy. And this is the piece when OG comes up, and I love this part. It was literally like 5 minutes in, right after Ryan Clark told AB that he apologized, and that shit was a real moment for that. But right
Yeah.
after that, when Fred was talking, he was giving AB his flower and he's telling him, he goes, look, he says, you're calculated. He says your hard work matches your passion. I got it on my notes
Mm,
here. And he says AB is calculated in everything that he does, and he's smart and hardworking. So he knows that, because Fred knows what it's like to be a hard worker and a talented athlete. When you combine that together, you just become great. And if
mhm.
AB was the greatest receiver for 6 years, then it has to be something. It's not just talent. There's
Right.
smart to that, right? There's calculation to that. So and while Fred was giving him those flowers and saying, if you were that then, I find it hard to believe that you're not still that now.
Right.
Everything that you do, you're doing it for calculation. You're doing it for a reason. And here's another example. AB was like, he's like, it also seemed like you dropped your album right after that. He's like, was that planned? AB was like, yeah, I had music sitting there already. So when I know my name's going to be in the news, I'm also going to drop that album, because guess what? Everyone's going to go listen to that too. If
Yeah.
that's not calculating,
I did. It makes sense to me.
that's what I'm
Y'all,
saying.
y'all are talking about me. Here's a track.
But on that note, and that's the other piece that it was the Ryan Clark piece, and them squashing it like grown men, showing us what it's like to apologize for your actions and then forgive your buddy for whatever stuff that you guys had a falling off on. That was great. That's big to see. That's one. The other one was the what happened with Bruce Arians. Now you know that there's a history, and it gives you more of an understanding to be like, yeah, it's more likely than not that Bruce Arians was probably doing more stuff than it's just AB losing his mind. That was the other one. None of this that we really got from the other interviews, right? But I didn't see
Mhm.
all the interviews, so I can't say that across the board. The other piece was the fact that these guys were out here giving each other flowers, giving each other respect, right? So Fred talking about AB and solidifying him as a great receiver. Because
Right.
there's something about someone great and someone accomplished giving you credit in front of your peers and everybody else, right?
Right.
So Fred did that to AB. AB did that for Ryan Clark, called him a Hall of Fame safety, captain of the defense, right? Being like, that's the man that went to. We beefed because I had beef with the other defensive players because they couldn't handle me. So they had to go to him to come and check me.
Right.
Right. So that he just like before that, the things you heard about Ryan Clark was he ain't got no spleen. You know what I mean? He little, he can't fight. But like AB's like, he's the dog, he's that dude. He said,
That's
he said,
that's
what
when
would you
Chan looked at him, was like, "What did you say about him?"
right? And he was like, what would you have done if the coach told you to get the F out of here? He goes, you probably would have smacked him. He goes, what you mean I would have smacked him? He goes, why gotta be all that? Because AB knew he was a dog.
Right.
And I think in my eyes, and hopefully in other people's eyes, people give RC the respect that he probably deserves, because a lot of players that come and go that did a lot of great things, but people don't recognize except for those that were on the field with him and practiced and played with him.
Yeah, I think Ryan Clark probably deserves his own little interview just for people that are fans to get to know him outside of football, because I think a lot of people don't know him outside of football.
I'm enjoying getting to
So
know him through the podcast little by little, right?
yeah,
Here's another piece. Right after Fred was giving AB his flowers, and then Ryan was like, man, shut up. He's like, you do this every time,
yeah,
because he's dropping one of those OG Fred moments,
it's
and
like
it's so great. But it wasn't like he didn't interrupt it. He added to it. He brought us into it, this type of like energy that they're just boys hanging out. And
right.
he's clowning them a little bit, but in a good way. He's
It's
like, you always do
respect,
this. It was
playful.
great. It was great.
Yeah,
I found myself laughing out loud and enjoying that moment. And that was all within the first 10 minutes. I was like,
yeah,
this is insane.
and it's just them being themselves as well. It wasn't like anything, like you said. It was just adding to the conversation, and it wasn't forced. And yeah, you're right though, man. You got to give flowers whenever you can, and that's why I said in the beginning sometimes, man. Because like when I watched ESPN, it's always like, "Oh, Ryan is saying this about AB," but and they're going at it. But when they're in the room and it's face to face, it's nothing but love and respect. It's
Right.
almost like what fight?
Yeah, but
What
I,
fight?
and I agree, and I think they understand it, and I think other people need to understand it too. When Ryan's on, the NFL networks and the sports talk channels, he's
Yeah.
got a job to do. He has to talk about what everybody else is talking about, right?
No, I
There's
get it.
way more that he could add to it, but that's not the point. The point is to talk about it and try
Nobody
to
wants
bring
to
as
hear
much
that.
right. So that part I understand. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it seems, and I don't know all the details, but it seems like Ryan was kind of pretty harsh on him, and he probably could have been because they had just beefed, and he's like, "Nah, I don't like him," because they talked about the money, 42 million, and they had a disagreement. It's funny how they had a disagreement on how it went down.
Yeah.
AB said, "Oh, you said, oh, he got that money. Now he acting crazy." But Ryan's like, "No, you said 42 mil first. You said I'm there." He's running a route. They're hitting him, and he goes, $42 million. This is how y'all treating me. And then he goes, "Oh," and that's when Ryan was like, "Oh, now he got money."
Yeah.
And that's easy when there's already tension built. When offense is versus the defense, and the team is not like AB said, they didn't have camaraderie, right? The team was in
Yeah.
shambles. They were fighting all the time. When Troy Polamalu was fighting, goddamn, what's going on?
Yeah, I know, right? When they
You
said
know?
that, I was like, "Whoa!" I
Yeah,
thought this
Troy,
was the
Troy
same.
Polamalu, he's never not working.
Yeah, I was like, I thought that was the most humblest guy around, and
Right,
he's getting into fights.
right.
Something's not right in there. But
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. But it was good, man. I enjoyed it.
yeah, it was a good
88 up,
interview.
84 down.
Yeah, yeah. When I heard that, I was like, man, that right there, that's tough to hear. Like you said, I go in, I get a touchdown, I'm on the bench. I do this, I do that, I'm on the bench.
Right.
And when 88 is up, 84 is down. Yo, that's got to stick with him. If that's the actual quote, that would
Yeah.
never leave him.
Yeah. Here's another thing that AB said that hit me. It hits different in the way that I took what he said. He was talking about his injury, right? Because people were like, "Is it the
Oh
incentives? Is
yeah,
it?" So it was the disrespect first and foremost, I believe, and then it was incentives going to want him to be out there to try hard, even though he's hurt. He's going
of
to go out
course.
there and try to make it happen because it's a team effort, right? But the injury piece is when he was talking about it. He said, he goes, yeah, I still run 15 miles an hour, but he goes, I got this injury that requires surgery to repair. It's not going to repair on its own. He had RC verify, right?
Yeah.
Then he said, I can't keep doing that. He goes, I can run 15 miles an hour and I can make it look easy, you know what I mean? This and that. He goes, I can't keep doing that because I'm gonna kill myself. So
Hmm.
when he realized like I couldn't do anything, he goes, he gave them one. he gave him a heads up that he was still hurt and it was not looking good this game. And then they like, hey, give us what you can. And then when he says I can't, they're gonna turn around and be like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Like that's a level of disrespect. You're giving someone your all. Just put yourself in his mentality. You're giving it all, and then as soon as you can't, you're done. You're using me.
Yeah. Especially playing on an injury that could only be repaired with surgery.
And you've been playing on it.
And you're still playing. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
I
like you
mean,
just got to
yeah.
look at it. Read between the lines.
Yeah. But it's good to hear it though, instead of just like, oh yeah, he did this. Look how everybody react. I wasn't like dogging him. I was just saying, yeah, the reaction was not good. The way you
Yeah,
reacted in the middle of, but when you hear all that stuff and, he showed the text messages. Yeah, I let them know that I was injured. First of all, NFL, you have trainers. They are there to go and report injuries. As a matter of fact, they have to report it to the league. This is how on uh what is it, by Thursday, I believe, all that has to be in so they can put it out, say, oh, this guy's injured. So all that was there, and still, I think it's just the disrespectful thing, man. I kind of believe him. I believe him.
yeah, and that's the point. The
And
point of giving him this opportunity to come out here and talk. Don't cut him off. Ask the right questions and listen when he's saying stuff. And we get this product. Now we know. I don't need to watch another. I don't think I need to watch another. AB. I will because it's just entertaining and it gets me. It
yeah,
opens up my eyes that in the beginning I was like, man, this guy he lost it. That Vontez perfect hit, and he even said that hit wasn't the biggest hit he's ever taken.
yeah, that's funny though.
You know what I'm saying? That's pretty interesting. But it's not him going crazy. It's the spin and the way that if
Hey
you're not
man,
doing your research, right, daily, if you're not doing your research, finding things out on your own, and you're just getting wave tops, the loudest person in the room talking is the information you're gonna get. Who's louder than the media?
right?
Nobody. Right. But now you got things like these podcasts that he's going on, he's able to talk about it. So it's good
Yeah,
stuff. Good time for that.
nah, it's good to see, man. All right,